What's up and welcome to Me, You, and Switch 2. I am me, Tom Tate, and you are you. So let's talk about Switch 2. This is the latest and greatest Nintendo Switch 2 news brought to you every Tuesday and Friday in snackable 5 to 10 minute episodes. Today happens to be Friday. It is June 5th. This is episode 106. It is 7:33 a.m. on the East Coast. And today marks a big anniversary. June 5th, 2025, exactly 1 year ago today, the Nintendo Switch 2 came into our lives and it was released. Officially, we are entering into the second year of Switch 2. It has been a pretty eventful year. I think we can all agree upon that, depending upon your play style, your play preferences, your hopes, your dreams. You might say that it's been an amazing year, or you might be feeling a little underwhelmed or let down. You were hoping for a few more titles that spoke to you. Or if you're like me, you're probably somewhere in the middle. I think all points of view are completely valid. But I want to just take a moment to recognize that we're entering into, season 2 of Switch 2. I'm not going to label the podcast season 2, right? But this is officially kind of the second year. At some point, I'm going to do kind of a full breakdown of my personal opinions on the highs and lows over on Patreon. That'll be part of my forever free DLC content, totally free. Bonus audio. I just posted my first hour-long episode on Patreon. It's a celebration of the Nintendo Entertainment System through the lens of what's available on Nintendo Switch Online through their classics catalog. That is over on patreon.com/switch2pod. That's switch with the number 2 pod. I actually had a patron, Matt, reach out and say that the first email was in his spam folder. So we are not off to a good start with Patreon. That was sent from Patreon servers. So there's really not much control I have there. But if you've been subscribed and you're waiting for that first episode, check spam or just head on over to Patreon. I am very grateful for Switch 2. It gave me a good excuse to get back into podcasting after a few years of not doing anything related to audio, and it gave me a great opportunity to connect with many of you. So I'm grateful to have you tuning in. It's going to be a great year for the podcast. I can feel it in my bones, and I think it's going to be a great year for Switch 2. We have a lot of news to cover today, and probably even more tomorrow, because as of recording this on Friday morning, this is the peak, or just the start, I guess, of Summer Game Fest. This is an annual event that kind of replaced the void and spirit of E3. Much different, though. Everyone is kind of doing their own thing. Sony did their own thing earlier this week with a full presentation. Xbox will do theirs this weekend. There's a rumor that Nintendo will have a full direct next week. They actually haven't had a proper general direct since 2025, since the fall of 2025, or so I read on Blue Sky. I didn't vet that, but I'm pretty sure that that's true. And tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern, Jeff Keighley will host the Summer Game Fest. You know Jeff from the Game Awards. This event will definitely have a lot of reveals and announcements, some of which will probably be of interest to the Nintendo crowd. I'm very glad that I'm not a Twitch streamer, that Twitch isn't my thing, and I don't feel pressure to do like a live reaction video for this type of stuff. So I will be watching it live, though. I will be watching it at 5 p.m. Eastern, probably on my phone as I'm in the kitchen making pizza for my kids and doing all that stuff. But you got to do what you got to do. But I will report back on the latest after the event. So today, I'm just going to run through a lot of headlines really fast. I won't go too deep into any one thing. There are some minor updates, headlines from last week that I didn't cover that I'll throw in there. Some announcements during the Sony event applied to Switch 2, so I'll mention some stuff from that and a few other things. So let's just get right into it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth released on Switch Wednesday, June 3rd. I played this one on PS5 at release, and I absolutely love this treatment of the game and the story. There are plenty of reviews to check out from the PS5 and PC release if you want to learn more about that. But the Switch 2 reviews started pouring in. Nintendo Life's Mitch Vogel gave it an 8 out of 10. He spends a lot of time getting into the many things you can do in this game. It's much more of an open world game than Remake. If you played that recently, it expands on the world, the characters a ton. You also have access to Queen's Blood, which is like a card game that you can play on the side. Very addicting. Spent a lot of time playing that. I think I was most worried about the performance here for this port because it's an ambitious game, runs really well, and Mitch brings that up. He praises the character models and graphics, but he does say, and I quote, this is from the article, "Some concessions have had to be made to fit this on a portable device. Regardless of whether you're in a smaller environment or out in the open world, the resolution is noticeably fuzzy and soft around the edges, as if you're viewing the action through smudged glasses. Meanwhile, Poppin is abundant with all kinds of environmental assets loading in constantly right in front of you if you're moving too quickly. And distant enemies will sometimes be completely frozen in place until you get close enough for their animations to kick in. He also mentioned the frame rate dips into the low to mid 20s sometimes, but overall he said it's still the performance issues didn't detract from the game's overall quality. His joys, excellent combat system, tons of interesting varied side content, and gripping story and deep characterization. His only con was visuals and performance can be inconsistent. Again, he gave it an 8 out of 10. Nintendo Insider's Sean Musgrave gave it a 7 out of 10. He also wrote about some of the performance sacrifices. Here's a quote. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth tries to do more than its predecessor in many ways, and it has the scraped knees to show for it. When it hits, but when it stumbles, it kicks up a real dust cloud. The story is engaging enough, but to its detriment. It's caught between trying to pay homage to the original game and doing its own thing. It's also a middle chapter, one where we don't really know how things are going to wrap up. I'm going to link to Nintendo Life's review roundup if you want to learn more. Lots of 8 out of 10s. According to Nintendo Life, the Switch 2 port currently sits at an 86 Metascore based on 27 reviews on Metacritic. That is a notable drop from the 92 of its PS5 counterpart, but perfectly respectful nonetheless. So general consensus seems to be is if you have a PS5 or a strong PC, like you're probably best off just playing it there. But if you wanted to play this on Switch 2 and play it portably, very serviceable. I'll also link to Digital Foundry's technical review if you want the full deep dive into performance. If you're into like the deep stuff, they always do a good job over at Digital Foundry. I'm personally probably going to pick this up later, like after the first sale or price drop. I would get it now, but I'm very excited for The Adventures of Elliot, which I already paid for, pre-ordered. Speaking of Adventures of Elliot's, I have a note here. Shota Fukibara, who worked on the game, he did an interview with Game Reactor, and here's what he had shared. I'd say it takes about 30 hours for a standard playthrough and around 50 hours if you really dive in and explore every inch of the map across all the eras. So this is bad news for me. 30 hours, I'm going to be playing this game for weeks, but it sounds like you're definitely going to get your money's worth if you're into exploring every nook and cranny of this game. I just started Mina the Hollower, and they were in the headlines this week because they announced that they sold 300,000 copies in its first 3 days, which is pretty impressive. I think they wanted to sell 200,000 to 500,000 total, and I think they bumped it to 1 million. So hopefully they just keep hitting and exceeding what their expectations were. I know they worked on this game for a long time. Star Fox is arriving later this month too. Big Nintendo release. There was a wave of previews that came out. Nintendo Life has another great roundup that I'll link to. Alex at Nintendo Life wrote, yes, this is Star Fox 64 again, but the past 29 years have been very kind to the industry's graphical fidelity. Obviously, the game looks better, but more importantly, Corneria City actually looks like a flipping city now. Game Informer's Brian Shea had a lot of positive things to say about his experience and is looking forward to playing through Star Fox 64's story once again. IGN's Logan Plant said expectations exceeded. I'll link to all of these. A few folks obviously still upset that this isn't a new story or a reinvention of the gameplay, but overall positive impressions all around. Star Fox is out on Switch 2 on June 25th. Digital Eclipse announced 2 Toy Story games this week. The first is Toy Story Retro Roundup. This is going to include 6 retro Toy Story games across, Super Nintendo, Genesis, PlayStation, that era. Toy Story 2, Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue, Toy Story 2, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, Toy Story Racer 2001, which I forgot about. That's the oldest game or the newest game in the collection, and A Bug's Life 1998, which has nothing to do with Toy Story other than it's Pixar, but I do remember that game, and I do kind of remember it fondly, so I'm interested to play this one. Original visuals or upgraded resolution, rewind, save states, the whole 9. Digital Eclipse typically does a great job with these. The other game is Toy Story 3 Complete Edition, 4K resolution, 60 frames per second performance, so this is going to be an upgrade from the game that I actually have this game on Xbox. It gets a lot of play in my house for my kids. It's genuinely a great game. There's like an open environment that you can explore. Toy Story 3 is a great game. I'm excited to see it return, and that will arrive as a separate release. Both games will arrive on October 15th as we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the original Toy Story. I know the new movie is coming out. That looks very good. So this is a timely release. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition finally got its Switch 2 release date. That'll be August 28th. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knights, which released on everything but Switch 2 a couple weeks ago, finally got its release date. That'll be September 18th. Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered will arrive on October 1st. And then some news from the Sony PlayStation event from the other night. Rayman Origins Enhanced Edition was showcased. That will come to Switch 2 as well on October 1st. And the big announcement here, I think, was Rayman Legends Retold, which will also arrive on October 1st. And the visuals on this one were pretty stunning. So if you didn't catch the trailer, check out Rayman Legends Retold. And another big one, I almost forgot about this one, was Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis. That will hit Switch 2 as well on February 12th, 2027. We have quite a bit of time for this one. This looked absolutely epic, very cinematic. Everyone's kind of talking about how great the storytelling is in this new James Bond game, and the visual presentation of Tomb Raider kind of felt like, you know, a movie playing out. Like, I think this game is going to be pretty cool. I think that's it. All rumors point to a Nintendo Direct possibly next Tuesday, and I'm sure we will have some news coming out of tonight's Summer Game Fest event, which I'll be watching. So stay subscribed to switch2pod.com for all the things. Again, that's Switch with the number 2 pod. You can hit me up on Blue Sky, Instagram, or Patreon at Switch2pod. Enjoy the weekend. Make the most of it. I will be back on Tuesday, maybe even sooner if the news warrants it. I am off to grind out the last day of the work week and hopefully play some more Mina the Hollower this weekend. Much love. Now go play some games.